Oh, building a strong foundation, that was it. If we could just all rise up from that understanding and consciousness that goodness is the stuff of life. It's the stuff of everything. When Ernest Holmes says, this is one of my favorite quotes of his, he says, "We are born to be happy, abundantly supplied with every good thing, to have fun in living, to unite with the divine power within and around us, and to grow and expand forever." Is there anything that doesn't resonate with us? Do any of you not want to be happy? Abundantly supplied with every good thing? Have fun? Feel the presence of God, the power of spirit, the universal intelligence, the creative imagination, whatever it is, and to grow and expand forever? Implanted in us, to show that this is the truth of who we are, there's a divine urge in us that really knows how to point north. Point north to happiness, joy, goodness, all that is right and true. It's inside us. We just have to take time to connect with it. And we get distracted sometimes. So we're going to talk today the shaman's forecast for the month of September is adjustment. And that to me means recalibrating our consciousness. And I want all of us this month to recalibrate our consciousness to a sense of prosperity and abundance and goodness in our life. Now, what I was saying earlier about some of these wonderful people that we know, it doesn't mean we can't be experiencing some limitation in health or finances or relationship. It doesn't mean that. An abundance consciousness is a consciousness that knows God has provided us with an unstoppable, abundant universe. You heard that song. We've been provided with this universe that is just amazing. If we look up at the stars at night, we may look at the stars, but there's a billion galaxies with a billion stars. We couldn't possibly see all the abundance of the universe if we look at the sky. We look down at the beach, we can't possibly count all the grains of sand, and we look at this beautiful earth. Oh my gosh, there was a sunrise this morning that I couldn't even move. It was so amazing. I was captivated by it. And it just told me of all the goodness that is there. There are untold riches in this world right now. Not some other time, right now. And even in the air we breathe, if we choose to be conscious of it, there is a vibrant power that can ignite us to recalibrate our consciousness, readjust to something good, to turn ourselves over, to turn around and change our life for the better at any time. We are here to live an abundant life. It's already provided for us. There's a Sufi saying, believe me, this is nothing new. A Sufi saying from 25,000 years ago says, "Abundance can be simply had by consciously receiving what has already been given." And isn't it, and the Bible says it's the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. And I mean, it starts out with says, "Don't worry, little flock." But, really, Father's good pleasure to give us the kingdom. We have the sheep consciousness. It's not spirit. We have the herd mentality that wants to keep the sameness. We need to believe right now, because a prosperity, abundant goodness consciousness comes from believing that everything that we desire, that divine urge, not that we want because someone else has it or it looks good on an ad, but the divine urge in us, that desire for good things, it has to be here ready for us. If that's the way God works, we have to know that, but we have to believe it first. I was reading a story, I think it was in a book called The Architecture of All Abundance, and I can't remember who wrote it right now, but she was saying there's a story. Magellan, the Portuguese explorer, when he was doing his world travels, in 1520 he stopped at Tierra del Fuego, right between Chile and Argentina, in the little islands there, and his ships went into the harbor, and the explorers were greeted by the Fuegan people. And the Fuegan people were the indigenous people of the area, and they were a little isolated because they were a canoe culture, and they could only go as far as their canoes would take them. Well, when they met the explorers, even though their ships were parked out in this harbor right there, they could not see the ships. The Fuegan people could not see the ships because they didn't have a consciousness to even conceive of anything like that. They had no idea anything like that could happen. But the shaman of the tribe went, these explorers must have arrived here some way. So he went into his meditation, his communing with the divine, and he expanded his consciousness. He went, oh, I think I know. And then he looked out there and he could finally see them. When he believed that they could be there, he could see it. And then he trained the people and talked to them and drew little pictures until they could finally understand and expand their consciousness. That's what I'm talking about. Recalibrating consciousness. Doesn't mean what we want isn't there. It means we have to up-level our vibration to be able to see it. Now, it's often said, well, I'll believe it when I see it, but it's really, I'll see it when I believe it. When I believe something can happen, I can make it manifest in my life. We have that possibility. So, yeah, it is the Father's good pleasure to give us the kingdom, but we have to change our mind about things. And the reason this is titled, the talk today is Lilies of the Field. I think that's one of the most beautiful biblical stories about possibility and what's inherent in each one of us. And when it says, consider the lilies of the field. They do not toil or spin. How many of you think you have to really, really work hard to make things happen? Okay, well, the lilies didn't. They said they didn't have to toil and spin. They just accepted the abundant bounty that was already there. Are you getting that? They accepted the bountiful abundance that was already there. They accepted it. And they were clothed so beautifully. The Bible shares even King Solomon in all of his glory was not as beautiful as these. And why would this God, this universal intelligence, give all this to the grasses of the field that today are alive and tomorrow will be in the oven? They're just a short cycle. Why wouldn't they give more to us? And that's when it says, do not fear, little flock. It is the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. So Ernest Holmes asks us, after he says that beautiful quote about everything we need is already here, why are so many of us weak, poor, and unhappy if all of it's here? If all of it's here. Well, let me tell you, first of all, I had a great teacher. My daughter and I both went to several classes with her with Jean Houston, Lynn Twist, and she started the Soul of Money Institute. And she has dedicated her life, her divine calling is to heal poverty and hunger in the world. And not just from people that are experiencing severe poverty and hunger, but she said from all people that experience lack and not enoughness and are living in this abundant universe. And she says there's 3 myths, toxic myths of scarcity that we all have, that everybody has or has been touched by these, and we need to lift our consciousness out of them. And the first toxic myth is the myth that there is not enough. And that's when we live in scarcity. There is not enough. And that fills us with fear and insecurity. And she said the second myth is the myth that more is better. And that's never feeling sufficient right where you are. Never feeling absolutely satisfied with who you are. And this, she said, this creates all the addictive behavior in our life and keeps us striving and never content and happy right where we are. And the third myth is, it's always been this way, so that's just the way it is. It's always been this way. And that keeps us stuck in, there's just not enough. I can't change it. I'm powerless, when we know there's unlimited power everywhere we can use. You know, it's amazing to me when you think, well, these are such scarcity myths. They just must be for a certain group of people. I was talking to a friend yesterday, and she was asking me, she said, I saw that you're talking about abundance this week, and I'm having a real problem. I'm working with this person in business who has millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars, but has a consciousness of lack and is always saying, I don't have enough. I don't have enough. And she said, how do I change that? And I didn't even answer her question right then because I thought, wow, What a wake-up call. You know, we don't always get our option A in life, for sure. Maybe we don't get our option B. It was about 9 years ago, Kirk and I had a huge financial catastrophe in our life. Unexpected circumstances brought us to a place of losing our home, which in our 43 years of marriage, 41 years of our marriage, we've had a home and we've always loved a home. And then we spent most of our savings trying to save our home that we ended up losing anyway. So it was like, whoa, we ended up in a place where we could feel really filled with lack and not enough. And I thought, I feel so abundant. And this person who has all the financial wealth you could imagine, and I would never turn that away either. But anyway, it's about consciousness, period. A prosperity consciousness is what brings us happiness. I was talking to another woman on the phone this week who, to me, looks like has it all. You know, just a beautiful life, does a lot of charity work, a beautiful person. And I just, wow. And I said, oh, I love what you're doing. You're making such a difference in the world. And the comment to that was, oh, if only I had the perfect man. And my thought was, is there one? No, not men. I'm not talking about men, but is there a perfect person? You know, but I thought, And my response to that probably wasn't as empathetic as I thought, but I said, well, it's better not to have one than to be with one you really don't want. You know? But, you know, it gave me a real adjustment in consciousness. These myths of scarcity don't just belong to a certain group of people. Actually, Lynn Twist said the most generous, kind, giving, caring, confident, sufficient people that she dealt with were not the people that were the most financially wealthy, but the people that they had the most spiritual wealth, that felt so good about who they are in the world they live in. Wow, so you and I have some work to do. We have to be turning on that power that we have to recalibrate ourselves. You know, I think true abundance is number one, our relationship with God, universal source, creative intelligence, I don't know, all that is, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't matter. But this power of which we're all a part, true abundance comes from that connection to spirit, that you know everything will be okay. You're always cared for. Think of the lilies in the field. You're always cared for. And the dominant pattern of our thoughts. You and I better keep real concentration and regulations on the thoughts we're thinking, because we can slip into those blind spots of those toxic myths that keep us stuck. But if we want to be happy, successful, joyous, abundant, feel we're supplied with every good thing, we got to appreciate what we have right now. That's where it starts. And what we appreciate, all of that. You're on the right track. It grows, it does all those things. What we appreciate appreciates. When we appreciate where we are right now, that's the first step. The first step, I appreciate right where I am right now. Now to recalibrate, you know, we know everything is vibration. These little thoughts we have, they're little bursts of power, bursts of vibration. And when we put enough of these thoughts together, they create these amazing things. They manifest. So we need to be really conscious of our thoughts. Now, there's teachers out there that teach, you know, how to work with our thoughts. I think some of the Buddhist teachers are the best of teaching us how to go within and recalibrate where we are, to be still, whatever's going on. Pema Chodron, who also grew into this amazing Buddhist monk Buddhist nun that goes around changing people's lives everywhere. Her change, she wasn't Pema Chodron her whole life. She started out as Deidre Bloomfield, I believe. And catastrophe in her life, grief, switched her around. And she said, you know, she has so many wonderful teachings, and I've seen her speak many times. I just love that woman. She says, we have to dissolve our armor of self-protection. If we're going to receive the abundance that God has to offer, we have to dissolve that armor of self-protection. And she said the number one way to do that, which I would have to agree with, is compassion. To have compassion, of course, for ourselves, and compassion for our world. And I've talked about this process she does, but she keeps it easy. She says, this compassionate process comes from a Tong Lin practice. And when we breathe in the pain we see, when we see what's going on in Houston and with the flooding, I breathed in the pain of these people, leaving everything behind, just their lives. I was breathing it in and breathe out blessings. You don't have to hold on to the pain. That's not good for us or anyone. When we're having problems, breathe in our grief, our sadness, our hurt. And breathe out, there's something more waiting for me. It's a process of keeping the flow of energy, dissolve that self-protection. And she said, what do we do when things get really rough, when you feel like you're flat down in the mud? Flat down, and you can't get up. Said you have to totally turn yourself around. If you're thinking, oh, life is so hard, how could I turn that around? Oh, there's something for me. Turn it around so we can recalibrate the thoughts. Does that make sense? Yeah, these teachers have really good things to keep us going, to re-energize our energy. And then there is Thich Nhat Hanh, who, oh my gosh, she's a Vietnamese Buddhist monk, and he teaches to be still. He also has a community of compassion, but to be still and to connect with God. And I believe if we make a commitment every day to contemplate on the divinity within us and around us, to contemplate every day on all the good that is transpiring right now, wow, we will calibrate to a higher level. Do you think so? I do too. That's a good thing. So, how do we keep continuous prosperity? Would anybody like to know that? It's a consciousness, and as I said, it's about number one, being grateful for what we have. Absolutely. And number two, knowing without question when we tap into the consciousness, what is God's highest vision for me right now? That if it comes from here, there is no such thing as an impoverished God. A lack consciousness is not God ordained. So we know that if we've been implanted with that divine urge, there must be the resources, materials, possibilities out there to manifest it. Right there is how we keep a constant prosperity consciousness, where we live with intention. I just want you to imagine right now. Right now, you're sitting in a field of good, a field of limitless possibilities right now. In this moment, no matter what, there may be limited experiences, painful experiences going on, not doubting any of that. But if we realize the universal storehouse of love and wisdom and power and substance is always open. It's not like Costco. You have to wait till 10 o'clock in the morning to get there, although you need it now. It's not like that. It's open all the time for us. We just have to recognize it. We have to recognize it. We have to let our life expand and be open, available, and receptive to all that is. Be grateful and be in that flow. Wow. So, I think it's wonderful to hear these things. I think it's wonderful. It feels good to know that those possibilities are there. But we've got to own it. Don't you agree? All right, could we have the slide? Oh, calla lilies are my favorite flower, and I didn't even get to look at that. Oh, thank you. Oh, my gosh, how beautiful. Thank you, Kirk. That's beautiful. Okay, now for what we're going to... The early metaphysical teachers said we had to take every day and affirm that life is good. Again, we may have limiting experience, but life is good, God is for us, there's a power for good ever available. So I'm going to read this to you, and then we're going to stand up today. And our prayer is going to be a verbal affirmation of what is true and right in this moment. So this says, I open every door in the window of my mind. I open wide every door. We have to be open and available to the good. If we close off, it's there. We have to discover the abundance in this world. It's there for us, but it's ours to claim. I know my life is harmonized right now with divine right action. You see, we have needs in the world, but what do we need right now? Maybe for it to be a little bit cooler. That would be nice, that would be a nice thing. But our needs are pretty well met right in this moment. We have desires, and if we put divine right action on our desires, we don't want to limit God. We may want plan 1, but what God manifests is plan 5. Every plan, every single one has opportunities and creativity in it. We have to be open and know our life is harmonized with divine right action. I sense myself surrounded by and filled with abundance. I live in gratitude and sufficiency. All right, get on your feet. We're gonna do this. We're gonna build a really strong foundation right now. We're gonna be building a foundation of sufficiency, enoughness, sustainability, all that's good, abundance in our life. So let's read this together. I open wide every door in the window of my mind. We're gonna read that one again, and I want you to consciously do it while we read it. I open wide every door in the window of my mind. I know my life is harmonized with divine right action. Okay, when we read that again, I want you to imagine all the little angels are here. All the little angels are here supporting you, because we all have those angels that are just waiting for us. I know my life is harmonized with divine right action. I sense myself surrounded by and filled with abundance. One more time. I sense myself surrounded by and filled with abundance. And last but not least, I live in gratitude and sufficiency. And that last sentence, because we're not on this journey alone. We're in this together. We can't want for ourselves what we don't want for other people. That's not the way it works. So I want you to turn to somebody next to you and just say, I see you living in gratitude and sufficiency. And I truly do see every one of you beautiful beings living in a consciousness and awareness and an experience of gratitude and sufficiency. Every day I thank God for you and our community. I bless you all. And so it is.